Welcome back to the Political Roundtable. Doug Miles, Gary Schuster with you today, and a very special guest, Gary, joining us on the telephone. Great honor to welcome really a member of one of the great political families in the United States history. We're joined today by Senator Adlai E. Stevenson, of course, senator from the great state of Illinois, and we all know his father was a governor as well and ran for president twice. And we're going to talk a little bit about, obviously, politics, but he also has a book out. Very interesting book about his family and political life called The Black Book, American Politics. History is experienced by 5 generations of an American family. And Senator Adlai Stevenson III joined us today. Senator, thanks for joining us. How are you tonight?
Thanks for having me. Glad to be with you.
Good to have you with us. And Gary Schuster also joins us. And Gary, I know you didn't get a chance to get the book yet, but you and I were just chatting a little bit before that. What a great family that you came from politically, and right now we're heading into, actually right in the middle of coming up to a great political race with the presidency. So I guess you kind of keep involved in it, don't you?
Not very much. The book, of course, records 5 generations of American politics and history. As my family knew it, and from on the ground, starting with Abraham Lincoln. But I have been more focused recent years on first publishing the book, on operating my farm and an international investment business, and just sporadically getting involved by supporting candidates. And frankly, I find it not the politics my family knew or the politics that created the country. So I really find it frustrating. I'd love to be more involved, but I don't see the avenues that I once enjoyed.
Senator, writing this book must have given you great pleasure. Did it grow out of something else, like a genealogy start, that got you back into it, or
the book?
No.
Oh yeah, well, the Black Book is named for a binder started by my great-grandfather, Vice President Adlai Stevenson, who stuffed material, bits of written wisdom, in it for his speeches, and it expanded over the generations. And I've named my book for that book, for the Black Book, which becomes the source of material for my book, which covers not only politics, it covers education and law and justice, and financial situation. There's much of what has happened in recent years, including terrorism, is forecast in the Black Book. That's one of the things bits of wit and wisdom call. To see the future, you must see the past. And that's quoting Churchill and Confucius.
Wow. Those are double good sources. Let me ask you something, though. When you get to that, did your father add to this book? I mean, is this a compilation over the generations?
Yeah, over the generations, but it was started by Jesse Fell, the great-great-grandfather, who was Abraham Lincoln's sponsor. It was Jesse Fell who proposed Lincoln-Douglas debate. He got Lincoln, persuaded Lincoln to run for president, who gave him his famous autobiographical sketch, which incidentally was recorded in the Black Book. It was Jesse Fell, the citizen who never asked anything, but served his community and his country all the time. He organized the Illinois Republican delegation to the 1860 convention that nominated Lincoln for president. Yeah, he was our first Republican and our last.
Well, but did your dad added to this book? Like I say, is this an ongoing?
Oh no, everybody. Yeah, the one weak link is my grandfather Lewis Stevenson, who was Secretary of State of Illinois. But my father's wit and wisdom, quote unquote, is incorporated throughout. But many sources. We all tried to, at least starting with, through my father, tried to study history, to study the world from on the ground and within it. I started with him in London in 1945, where he would die 20 years later. His perspective is from the world, from within it, not from through a Western prison and a media rising television.
Got some great quotes in the book, and I just opened up quickly to a page here, quoted by many political people over the years. One I just came up to right now: "Democracy is a breathing spell between tyrannies," said by, I believe, Woodrow Wilson. "All the ills of democracy can be cured by a more democracy, and the only thing wiser than anyone is everyone." So you got some great quotes in the book here, Senator.
Well, they're most of them have messages of consistency, but I'm not being effective. I'm being comprehensive. But the overriding message is that democracy is very fragile. The founders understood that. They were creatures of the Enlightenment, created a representative form of democracy, which over time, as I explained, and I was one of the leaders of reform, we kept, and rightly so in many respects, always in the name of democracy, we reformed, and in some ways made it more undemocratic. I remember the old days when the great leaders of America were nominated by party conventions. First was in 1948. Now they have to raise $1 billion. Even the President of the United States goes to fundraise. It's unthinkable in the America of the Black Book. It's as if politics is for sale. That's not much of an exaggeration.
I think those founders who drafted the Constitution would have thought, what they would think of term limits. More and more called.
Well, incidentally, one of the first acts of the founders of the Constitutional Convention was to lock the doors. So they could represent the public interest. And me being a reformer, one of the first things I always did was to open the doors and let in the sunshine. What do? We let in the money and the lobbyists. I think they would be, how do you transpose them from their locked doors? These aristocratic people, creatures of the Enlightenment. But I think, given their respect for a representative form of democracy, that they would have opposed term limits and respected the ability and right of the people to elect candidates for public office, even if they were experienced by service. That has happened throughout our history. You don't get disqualified as soon as you've had some experience with which to qualify you. You give the people opportunity to elect Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This was an amendment that was in response to their election of Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
I guess that's always the narrative that used to play with. Maybe there was a need after 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 terms to the Senate or the House to bring in some new blood, some new light, and not the long-standing people involved in what negativity.
Well, that's the theory. The complexities of governance today far exceed those of our founders, and the dysfunctionalities of government, mount as the complexities mount. And I tell you, it'll take you a couple of terms, even in the Senate, to begin to discover this world. And especially for these people, any of them, who can get elected with enough money. The Senate gives you an opportunity to get educated. And if you don't get educated, you can get thrown out.
Talking with Senator, go ahead, Gary. I was going to read.
Having covered the Congress while I was in Washington, I was the bureau chief of Detroit News in Washington, and in sides, cover the White House, but also cover the Hill. I think you're right. I think that you're just getting rid of your water wings about the second term. You know?
Well, you're just finding out, where the men's room is.
Or the ladies' room.
Or if you're finding out where Mauritania is, or beginning to learn about Libya, I tell you, not many of them try. They don't go to Palestine. They campaign in Israel. But it takes a lifetime, and my father is some evidence of it. Lifetime of study, and that's one of the good things about the Senate. I used it as kind of a glorified tourist agency to get me around the world, including underground as chairman of the Senate Subcommittee on the Collection, Production, and Intelligence, and predicted 9/11. It was easy if you were learning. You took advantage of the opportunity to understand the dynamics of that region and had the courage to express them.
Talking with Senator Adlai Stevenson III. The name of the book is called The Black Book. And Senator, you mentioned the conventions. Gary and I are going to be going up to Tampa to cover that the end of next month. But like you said, no suspense the last several conventions, except for maybe Vice President, who Romney's going to pick. Even that probably isn't going to be all that much of a surprise. Where you go back to where your dad ran for president, and even before that, the conventions. There was actually some work done. It was kind of interesting, I guess, not only to cover it, but things came out of that doesn't happen anymore.
Well, I've noticed always the gossip about the president, presidential candidates, as well as the vice presidential. There's not a word. And the issues are the qualifications of the individual to become president. My father, in the old days, that was still true. My father chose John Spartan, and I think it was for multiple reasons. He was a senator from Alabama. With whom I later served, and you would remember him. He was chairman of the banking committee when I served there. He was a very respectable guy, but served for multiple reasons, one of which being that he was from the South. Then in 1956, my father threw it open because his nomination was foreordained and he wanted to inject some excitement into the convention. It came to it for the toe-to-toe contest between Justice Kefauver of Tennessee and a young, unknown senator from Massachusetts by the name of, very junior senator by the name of John F. Kennedy. And it stirred up some excitement, all right. And we were rooting privately for John F. Kennedy. Maybe my father made a mistake. Maybe he should have chosen Kennedy, but it was just as well better for Kennedy because it brought him to the nation's attention, and he was not implicated in a failed contest for the presidency or the vice presidency.
Right. Plus 60 was an open issue. Eisenhower was going, so it made it a little less cumbersome.
60 was a really dramatic convention. All the great presidents were chosen in convention. Now they're chosen before the convention. The conventions are just media events. I stopped going to them in the mid-'80s. What's the point? It's just going there, picked for reasons of race, gender, and the Democratic Party expressed sexual preference. As if to wave your flag on you and vote for your candidate. These are media events that I think the media begins to lose interest in. In the old days, they debated issues. 1948, it was still all right. And the South walked out. In 68, it was, Vietnam. And you couldn't always foresee the outcome, including in 1960, though I think John F. Kennedy was kind of foreordained, but people stormed the country. They just rolled across the country and they literally broke down the doors, entered that convention and to demand the third nomination for Stevenson.
Does your father have anything to say in the Black Book? Did you use anything he said about the 56 presidential selection between default and Kennedy?
No, it's not that kind of bug. No. I'm sorry. I may have in my own commentary just mentioned that, but I don't attribute anything to him. I do remember being at that convention, running down the stairs to congratulate Jack, we call him Jack Kennedy, as he was. It looked like he was winning. His outside driver was starting the gate. And then take his hand. He was pulling up his trousers to go down to the convention to accept the nomination. Running back upstairs to my father's suite to watch television. That's just the problem. So it achieved some purpose. It did affect a little drumming, but I don't know.
No more of that now.
Well, no. Our politics there is very little resemblance to the politics of the 80s country. As a matter of recall, the book was taken out and available on my website, www.adlaistv.com.
Senator, you mentioned, and just reading through the book, how politics has changed, particularly just from you go back to even Reagan and Tip O'Neill. They would disagree politically on policy and all that, but they would after work go have a drink together, have a beer together, and I think the last 10 or 15 years, I think that whole aspect has gone away from the political divide. Does that disappoint you as a former senator?
It's beyond my belief. The Senate I entered, I don't remember any citizenship in the Senate that I entered, let alone this instability, this barbarity. I just don't understand it. I don't understand. They're saying to some extent, present company, accepted to the media. And the media in the 70s, which is a transitional decade, more episodic, more visual, more electronic, and of course the print media has signed had 4 newspapers, now we've got 2 newspapers. So politicians respond in kind to what the media reports, and the poor public servant, and I'm sure there's still some out there, but you're not likely to hear from them. They think they are responding, and probably they are. What it takes, to get media attention. I think the people are disgusted. And if you're really serious in talking about the internet monetary system, seriously talking about peace in the Middle East, how do you get the Democratic dialogue? The Abraham Lincoln numbers debate 3 hours each. On one subject. Nowadays, I think these guys, that's one of the reasons, going back to your first question, why I don't think many people with qualifications for public service nowadays, for elective office, are willing to volunteer. They have to raise money and then sign the meeting.
When you're in the House of
That's
Representatives,
exaggeration.
you're in the House of Representatives, you never stop raising money. I mean, if you're going to run again, the fundraising never stops.
Well, I'm told, I read, you probably heard about the Norm Ornstein's book, Common Man's Latest.
Oh, sure, yeah, sure.
Norm, incidentally, I was chairman of a special committee of the Senate organized to reorganize the Senate. He was one of my staffers. That's where he began back in the 70s. He's been a very, 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 very perceptive observer of the Congress ever since then. And Tom Mann, I gather, too. And incidentally, Ornstein is to the American Enterprise Institute.
I don't know. That's where he is now. One is a lawyer, on cases.
Well, this is crisis, they say. It's worse than you think. They come down towards the end, and he's from the American Enterprise Institute, Roundtable, very hard on these uncivil, these radical, ideological, right-wing Republicans. Can you imagine that all the Republicans in the Congress have made a promise to one quirky individual by the name of Grover Norquist not to pay taxes? In other words, they transferred their allegiance to their country and their people to this one eccentric individual. That's not an exaggeration. They have all taken a pledge, and so had the country saying goes in the press is heading to 66. We're already beginning to pay, the economy is beginning to pay a financial price for it to be tyranny. I think this is not the America or in the Black Book. No wonder China rises. That book was an epilogue on the life cycle of nationalist empire. China rises.
Senator, we just have a couple of minutes left with you. Wanted to get your thoughts, obviously, on the election coming up. Your thoughts on what President Obama has to do and what his opponent, Mitt Romney, would have to do. Is the country divided as much as we seem to hear on television and reading about it, or what do you think?
Well, I've almost given up watching I think, first of all, to give Obama his credit, he inherited a financial crisis, 2 wars, the budget suspended in the deficit, the taxes rate. He got on top of it. But he had very little experience. And he was never, he comes from Illinois, so he was always known to compromise with, resistance. But I think this, high price, he now does have some experience. He's been on the job, and I detect signs of a little more fortitude, a little more fight. He's going to really put together his program and take it to the country, take it to the people. He can command. He uniquely can command the media attention, even if he talks sense to the American people, or my father. I think he's beginning to do that and exercise some restraint, moderation in the Middle East. But that's what he has to do. Talk sense, winning isn't what counts. Democracy is a system for forming the people. Form. I think they're just hungry for truth. Trust them with the truth, as my father said. But then give them answers, even if they're hard answers. Even if it takes standing up to lobby the Middle East or give us a rational healthcare system. Ours, for example, is the most inefficient, inexpensive in the developed world because that's the Starbucks pie. Got to be bold, and I really do see some signs of boldness, probably produced by experience. Related, but experience. Maybe because he really begins to realize that the American people would respond to real leadership, truth, even if they don't really respect it. I can't see it coming from the other side. They both can't lose. Maybe the other side, he doesn't win. The other side will lose.
The problem now, Senator, is that, making these explanations to people, the way the media works, and you've got to rely on the media, obviously, is that they deal in sound bites. So, where the Lincoln Douglas debates were 3 hours on a subject, you that 32nd sentence, but it makes a big difference for you.
No, but I'm trying. I agree, and that's what I was lamenting earlier. But I'm hoping and trying to suggest that maybe the president of the United States, maybe he's still. I mean, we in the Congress used to be frustrated as hell. All 535 of us, or whatever. We had no voice. The president had the bully pulpit. President of the United States has the bully pulpit. I'm going to be careful with my language. I wish he would put on his necktie and quit going to fundraisers. Get behind that bully pulpit in Washington. Stop acting like another politician and act a little more like a president of the United States. We need the bully pulpit. I don't think the media can totally ignore the president of the United States or ignore him even when he's talking about it.
Take some advice from Teddy Roosevelt, who did that quite well. Bully pulpit, right?
Well, you know, our father was able in his day to take, well, that's comes from Yana, but to take out half-hour blocks of time on national television.
Right.
For eloquent, very substantive speeches to the American people, and lay out in those speeches and in all kinds of proposals, speaking to the leader of the party during the Eisenhower two campaigns, laid the programmatic foundation for the new frontier of the great society. Started the strategic balance limitations process. I don't know how much time a president can buy nowadays. And even if he can't get the media to pay attention to the president of the United States anymore, maybe he can buy some time. My father at one point took 5 minutes to block some time on national television. Sit down in front of the cameras and talk sense to the American people. Sit down and talk to them. Forget the negativism. Just don't demean yourself as liberal, low yourself to the level of the opposition. I wish he had more statesmen around him and fewer tacticians. Clinton was the first Democratic president in the new era. No longer the era of the New Deal, the Fair Deal, the Great Society, the New American, no problem. The deal, tactics, the money, really go back. We need to recapture our past. Make this another era of the New Deal. Plus it's to the American people, even if we have society.
Senator, I got a Chicago question. You said in Chicago, what's the city's take on the disappearance of the speech of Congressman Jackson?
Oh, you know, I only read the newspapers. They're all sort of complaining that he's not being more forthcoming, so they haven't known much about his position. I think they're getting a little more, slowing down a little more, being a little more sympathetic. I have no idea why they don't lay it on the, lay it on the line. They say it's taking a leave of absence. I never heard of it. They taking a leave of absence. Do you remember that? Did you ever
No, I
see
don't. I know there were some who people wish they would have.
And a lot more now, but it'll come out, and maybe there's a reason for it, but it's hard to understand why they aren't more faithful for something out here. Yeah.
Well, Senator, I know we kept you a little bit longer than we said we would, but we really appreciate your time tonight. The name of the book is called The Black Book. Senator Adlai E. Stevenson the third has been our guest. Give out the website once again, Senator. People can get a hold of the book if they like.
Adlai3.com, my website. You'll hear about it. You can read about it, and you can even read about me. Good luck. Thank you, Gary and Doug. It's always a pleasure.
Senator, it's great being with you. It's great to hear you again.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We'll talk to you again.